Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today I'm going to do a video on my analysis of Nicholas Godejohn, who I'll call Nick from now on. I've gotten a lot of flack from a couple of previous videos I did. One was an open letter to Gypsy Rose Blanchard, where I reached out to her. She was leaving prison and saying, here's what, as a profiler, I want to talk to you about what you've been through, where you're at now, and where you should go in the future. I did that not only for Gypsy, but for anybody who'd been in a situation where they had been abused as they were growing up, especially if they've been in the clutches of a psychopath who exhibited Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which, by the way, is simply a behavior of a psychopath, usually female. And what they try to achieve through their behavior in harming their child, or claiming that somebody else is harming their child, or going to doctors and saying they have diseases they don't have. They're trying to get power and control. They want a lot of attention, and sometimes they make money off of it as well. So they are a psychopath who uses this methodology to gain this kind of excitement, thrills in their life. Some psychopathic males prefer rape and murder, and that's how they get their thrills. That's how they get their power control, and sometimes attention through the newspapers and the media outlets. So males and females tend to have different versions of how they get power and control if they're psychopaths. I did two videos. One was that letter, the open letter to Gypsy, which was not only to her, but to anybody who'd been in her situation. And I got a whole lot of flack saying, why do you feel sorry for Gypsy? Gypsy's a psychopath. Gypsy manipulated Nick. Poor Nick. Why did she get out in 8 years and he's in for life without chance of parole? When all he did was fall in love with Gypsy, and she manipulated him just like Dee Dee manipulated Gypsy. She learned from the best, and she's screwed him over. And now she's out and about, and she's got, the Lifetime documentary, and she got married while she was in prison with Ryan, and now they're doing a reality show pretty much, which I object to. And there's going to be another season. She's going to make a lot of money. They say Gypsy is a psychopath like her mom, and she's a manipulator, and she did that to him. And there's a huge Nick fan club out there, and so I've been heavily attacked for my letter to Gypsy Rose. So I did, I'll link below also the last hangout I did. In hangouts, I come out every week and I discuss just all kinds of different things. But I did dedicate about 30 minutes of the beginning of that hangout. So watch it. To, is Gypsy Rose Blanchard a psychopath? Did she manipulate Nick and abuse him? And what's up with that? I talk about that because I am not in a position, since I cannot get to analyze Gypsy Rose Blanchard to any degree, where I know the difference between the fallout from more than 2 decades of being imprisoned by her mother and tortured by her mother and manipulated by her mother and controlled by her mother. I can't tell the difference between that and whether she became a psychopath because of that, or whether she's just struggling with developing her own identity. I personally think she's like an early teenage in her behavior. People say, oh, she loves attention. Well, everybody loves attention. And, now the TV people are giving her attention. And somebody's giving her money. Coming out of prison, you don't make much money, but somebody's going to throw money at you. You're probably going to reach up and grab it. I cannot say what exactly a Gypsy Rose Blanchard's psychological profile is at this point in time. And I'm willing to stand back from that. So people say, well, what the heck? You weren't very nice to Nick. And so I've got a barrage of negative messages, emails, comments about how I am not being fair to Nick. So I want to discuss this man today and take you through why I think this guy is a psychopath, and why I think he's dangerous, and why I think he is where he should be. All right. So before you just click off and say she's an idiot, please stay here. And if you disagree with me at the end, I'm okay with that. We all see things differently. Even you know, I, I know I always believe everybody has a right to an opinion. Just be nice about it, okay? Because otherwise, I block you. Anyway, so let's go on to Nick. There's a lot of people out there who saw the act, which is the I actually haven't seen that, but apparently he was presented in such a way that everybody fell in love with this dude. In other words, he was soft-spoken. He seemed kindly. He seemed madly in love with Gypsy, and she seemed to manipulate him. So from a fictionalized version of the actual events, an awful lot of people think this guy is like just the nicest guy who just, he was a knight in shining armor who wanted to save the girl he loved. And because he's on the autism spectrum, which is what everybody points out, and autism spectrum, by the way, is not, quote, on the end where it's super autistic, but he's a kind of, what do you want to call it? Aspergery. I call it Aspergery because it seems like there's not very good scientific information on this. So it seems that if you have some difficulties with social interaction and understanding of social cues, you have Asperger's, but nobody actually can. There's not a good scientific methodology. So you go to a psychiatrist and he goes, I think you got Asperger's. And apparently it's become a thing. A lot of people who have social issues seem to want to be Asperger's because it gives them a label that they can then, I don't have to fight this anymore. So I'm just going to be saying I'm Asperger's. Now, for you folks who believe you truly are on the spectrum and have Asperger's, I want you to pay attention because this guy's a murderer. And a lot of people are saying, if you're on the spectrum and have some mild Asperger's, you could be a murderer because that's a thing. You can't help yourself. I'm going to say most people who have a label of Asperger's are not murderers. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Also, they say it's an intellectual disability. Used to be called mental retardation, but intellectual disability. He was in some special ed classes, supposedly, learning disabled classes. I don't know why he was in those classes. And so this is where we don't have all the information why he was there. Was it behavioral? Was it actually intellectual? Because he actually speaks quite well. He actually is, I have seen nothing that says he has an intellectual disability. That he's not the brightest bulb in the group, maybe not, but most people aren't. They're just, they got different levels, but that doesn't mean that you don't know the difference between right and wrong. It doesn't mean you murder because you don't know that it was a bad thing to do. That's nonsense. So regardless, was he unable to determine right and wrong? Was he unable to say, this is probably not where I should go? It's against the law. He knew it was against the law. He knew it was morally wrong, but he did it anyway. And so I'm going to get into that. Okay, so first I want to talk about, let me just say one more time, 2 links below, my letter, and then my issue, my hangout that says, what about Gypsy Rose's, does she have a personality disorder, doesn't she? Check those out. But now let's go to Nick. All right. Nick. I came out rather forceful right away and said that Nick's a psychopath. And that's where I got a lot of flack. I feel a little bit responsible for that because I didn't explain it. And I kind of understand why people think I jumped it. I shouldn't have gone there so soon. And a lot of people say, well, Pat, did you not see this video of him being interviewed by the detective? If you'd seen that, he was on the spectrum, and that this detective manipulated him, because everybody manipulates Nick, and Nick doesn't manipulate other people. I'm going to argue that point. So they were like really anti this detective, who I thought did a fabulous job. Because her job is to get the information out of the suspect. And she connected with him in a way that, okay, it's fake, but hey, that's what you do when you're a detective. And he connected with her in a way that was also fake, because that's what a suspect does. I'm going to explain that in a minute. I want to go back. All right. So there's this theory, and I do not have tons of information on his previous life. I do not. If I were writing a book, somebody had hired me to do a whole series on Nick, and they were paying me some money so I could actually survive while I was doing, hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of work. Okay, I might know more. If you know more, link it below, because I'm always willing to learn more. Because one of the things about profiling and investigations is that sometimes you just don't have enough information, and maybe you base something on something that you didn't know yet. I've worked on cases where from the outside, I thought one thing. And then when I worked with the police department and read the actual police files, I'm like, oh my God, if I'd only known this. Well, I'm going to tell you what I know publicly about Nick and why I've come to the conclusions I did. If you have some other information, put it below. Hey, yeah, okay, just put it below. Okay, let's go on now. All right, Nick. As far as I know, Nick was supposedly, when he was growing up, ended up in some kind of educational situation where he was in a learning disabled class. And I don't know what that freaking means. And the reason I say this, I'm going to tell you exactly why I say this. What does learning disabled mean? When I was dating my husband, and I'm divorced now, but I was married for 25 years. When I was dating my husband, he was 19 years old. And the problem he had was he could not read and write. He had moved from Jamaica when he was 15 years old. And apparently when he was in Jamaica, he kind of didn't go to school too much because he was like a goat herder. So anyway, he ends up in Washington, D.C. in a crappy school, like a really crappy ghetto school. And he graduates, he cannot read his diploma, but he graduates because that's the U.S. school system for you. So anyway, I met him when he was 19. And I liked him, and I loved his family, and we got along. But he worked this really crappy mail clerk job, which is interesting because I guess he could at least figure out what things to put where. But anyway, so I met him, and he suffered from having a very poor education. And I was about to, we got together, and I was thinking, okay, we're going to maybe get married. And he said, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life. So I took him to what do you want to call it? It was like a work psychologist. I don't even know what you call it. But he put him through a battery of tests to determine what kind of work he could get. And apparently what came out was that he was so low IQ that he was borderline intellectually disabled. Is that the word these days? Intellectually disabled. I used to work with, used to work when the days where you could say somebody was mentally retarded. I worked with an organization where I helped mentally retarded people. I worked on the weekends and helped them in their homes and all that kind of stuff. And now you can't say that word anymore. So now I gotta look over here. I actually look it up. Intellectually disabled. Okay, so he actually put my husband to be, my fiance, as low IQ. I can't remember how low it was, but it was low. And he said he could do two jobs. He could work as a janitor, or he could work in the park system, like cleaning up like leaves and stuff. Now, mind you, I was a rich girl from the other side of the tracks, and I was a college girl. I was college educated, and I'm like, you just telling me my fiance is at the time mentally retarded? And I did not. I said, hey, I worked with mentally retarded people. Okay, at that time, that was the word. I worked with them. I've actually, and don't tell me that my fiance has an intellectual disability to that level. I know he does not. What I believe is that he didn't get proper education. Time went on. I married the man in spite of what that person said. And which I paid $300 for that. just annoys me. But anyway, I married this guy, and eventually he learned how to read and write. And then he got really good work. Eventually, moved up. And after we got divorced 25 years later, that dude is making six figures, and I'm not. He's not intellectually, what's the word? Intellectual disability. Okay, whatever. But he did not have that. What he had was a lack of education. He grew up in the country. He was barefooted goat herder. He didn't understand. They asked him about things like, do you know what the Big Dipper is? He's like, no, he didn't have a clue about that. But he could label 12 different oranges, which no U.S. citizen can do. So he got a label, but it wasn't necessarily true. So I'm always a little cautious about labels. Very, very cautious. So we have this guy. He's growing up. He's in these classes. I don't know why he's in these classes. I do know from, well, okay, I don't really know. This is just junk on the internet. That supposedly, he was with his mother until high school because his parents separated, divorced. And then he went to live with his daddy for 4 years. And according to the internet, he basically spent most of his time on the internet and like doing things which I think are concerning, because I'm concerned about young people spending too much time on the internet, teenagers especially. And he was into fantasy, he was into role playing, and he was into hardcore porn and BDSM. That's not healthy. So that supposedly that happened during daddy days. Then he comes back to mommy when he's like 18 or whatever. And I think it was, I might be wrong because, I hate certain details, just I forget because I don't do very good outlines. So anyway, I think it was 26 when he hooked up with Gypsy. So he's sitting at home with mommy. I don't hear anything about him working at all. Now, I worked with what's the term? Intellectually disabled people. And by the way, I was also a sign language interpreter. So I worked in the community of people with many disabilities, blind, deaf people, deaf, blind people. It is different. And people with all kinds of disabilities. And so I'm very comfortable with all of that. But he's not working. I know people intellectually disabled who worked. They loved working. They would leave they were living in some kind of, situation, which was usually housing they were away from their families, but they got to live in a group house, and they had people like me coming in and spending time with them. And then they would go to work, and they would work in different situations and earn a living and had a good life to their capabilities. I don't know what the hell this dude was doing, sitting. I never heard about him working ever. I heard about him being on the internet day in and day out. I heard his mother basically, he's like when Gypsy sent him money so he could come be with her, why the heck doesn't this dude have any money? He's living in his mommy's house. What is he doing in his mommy's house? Well, as far as I'm concerned, he's an incel. He exhibits every evidence of being an incel. What is an incel? A guy who can't get a date. Essentially can't do real well in the real world, having relationships. Now, some people say that's because he's on the autism spectrum. I know people who are intellectually disabled who got married. They were lovely people. They met other people who were intellectually disabled and then got married. They had boyfriends, they had girlfriends who were really nice people, and they had relationships. I also know some psychopathic, intellectually disabled people. I'm like, I would not want to be. I worked with one. She was a nasty piece of work. I want to point out right here, you can be intellectually disabled. What used to be called mentally retarded. I just say this because these words are always changing. You can have that and still be a psychopath. You can be autistic and still be a psychopath. You can be Asperger's and still be a psychopath. You can be whatever over here and still be a psychopath. And I think that's the problem here. He's still a psychopath regardless of whatever other label you put on him. So all of you people on the autism spectrum, all you Asperger-y people, You are not psychopaths, but this guy is. And don't connect yourself with him just because he's on that supposed spectrum. I mean, still, he does stuff that you don't do. Do you murder people? Probably not. Why is it okay that he murders people and doesn't seem to? He's like, okay, oh, whatever. That's not normal. That's not normal for anybody, including people who are on the spectrum. Stop accepting him as one of you. For God's sakes, that's not one of you. You should be pushing him away and saying that is not the way people on the spectrum act. I may be autistic, I may be Asperger's, but that is not me. But anyway, all right, let's go back. So now he's living with mommy and apparently doesn't have a job, and he's spending still all his time on the internet, which is what incels do. He's on the internet. He's in fantasy world. He is in hardcore violent porn. All right. He is in, he calls it BDSM, but hey, he's looking at rape videos. Rape videos are not the same as BDSM. And if you're BDSM people, which I don't approve of, so sorry, I don't like it either. There is a difference between that and rape. He was into rape. Now, all right, let's move on. Before this whole thing happened with Gypsy, this guy was sitting in a freaking McDonald's for, what was it, 8-9 hours? Sitting there. I don't know where he was. I don't know if McDonald's has a booth. I don't think they have too many booths, but I don't know where he was. Again, some information is limited. But he was basically sitting there watching porn in a public location. Oh, you're going to say, oh, that's because he's on the autism spectrum. He didn't realize it was inappropriate. The dude knows it's inappropriate. He knows that. Why he was doing it is another question. And I'm going to say it's psychopathy. He enjoyed it. And so he's in there basically masturbating to porn videos. And I'm going to say his porn videos weren't softcore porn where he was in love with this beautiful girl. No, he was into violent porn. He was into women being tortured and abused, put up in handcuffs, beaten, and assaulted in many ways that they screamed and said, oh, stop, stop. He liked that stuff. Now he's in McDonald's jacking off, and the police catch him. I don't know how it took that many hours. And they're like, dude, what are you doing? And do you know what he told the police? Because he is a liar. He said, I had a scratch. That's when my hands are down my pants. I'm scratching. Sure you are. You're scratching the porn. Liar. So there's a lot of people who think he doesn't know how to lie. He's so honest. He's so open. No, he's not. This dude is a manipulative liar. Okay. But it doesn't look that way to you because you've never seen it before. So anyway, he lies to the police. I don't know what kind of deal he got because he seemed to get off pretty easily. Oh. Freudian slip. Okay. Time goes on. He goes on dating sites. Now, he says, interesting enough, he's on tons of sites. He has lots of friends. So, okay, so this guy supposedly is socially inept, but he does manage on the internet to have lots of friends because he sits in his mother's house, apparently not working, on the internet, and he makes lots of friends. Now, one of the things I learned early on as a profiler was that as a profiler, if I went onto the internet and I had one guy, I was looking for a particular person who I believe was involved in a possible sexual homicide. Oh my God, I put my name up there and like these men, I mean, hundreds of the suckers. And they were on the internet like 24 hours a day if they didn't have to sleep. And they had all the boxes open. So understand this. They're not just looking at you. It's like, oh, you think, oh my God, this person says, hi. I didn't have to use my name, Pat. Let's say I use my name. Let's say I said Cindy. They're like, hi, Cindy. Oh, where are you living? And I'm like, oh, I'm in Maryland. And they start talking to me. I'm thinking, oh, I'm so special. They're talking to me. No, they're not. They have boxes open across their entire screen. They got 9 to 12 boxes open. And what they do is within a minute or two, they go into sexual talk. They're like, hey, Are you open to all kinds of sexual stuff? Or do you have anal sex with your boyfriend? Do you do this? Do you like blowjobs? They will go into that really quickly, like within 5 minutes. Why? Because they don't want to waste their time with women who aren't going to cooperate or girls who aren't going to cooperate. And so they have not all these boxes open. And so this one says, no, 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 no. Yes. They're like, they go over to yes. That's how they function. That's how they manipulate. This guy was all over the freaking internet. He was in many, many different chat rooms doing different things. I do not have the evidence of what he was doing. I cannot find it. I just know a lot of sketchy stuff. And he was into role playing, which is, I'm not saying we can't role play and you don't have to be a psychopath to role play. You can role play because it's fun. You can go in there and you can pretend to be an alien. You can pretend to be whatever you're going to pretend to be. And it's kind of like, it's like acting. It's like acting and it's fun. I'm not totally against that. But he was big into role playing. And then he went on a Christian dating site. If this guy's Christian, I am Mother Teresa. All right. This dude's not Christian. He doesn't know it doesn't seem to have any interest in Christianity or the true meaning of Christianity or anything about Christianity. But he goes on a Christian dating site. What does that mean? That is the beginning of manipulation. Why do guys go on Christian dating sites? Why do guys go to church who are not Christians? They go because that's where naive women are. Women who are looking to find a guy who will like them. In a lot of Christian churches, the women are taught to forgive. The women are taught to give people a chance. Sometimes they're overweight women. Sometimes they're middle-aged women. They're women who have struggled in life. And here comes a guy to church and he wants to find the Lord. He wants to give himself over to Jesus Christ. He wants to start a new life. And he looks over and he goes, "You're a beautiful woman. I want to be with you." And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm 36 years old and fat. Wow, this is incredible." But a lot of psychopaths go to churches because they know they have victims waiting for them, that they can manipulate, because these women, they want to have a chance in life. They want love. They want affection. They want to get married. They want to have kids. They want all these things. They have a right to want these things. And then this psychopath rolls into the church and they fall for it. And if you look at a lot of serial killers' histories, you'll find a lot of them attended churches to find women. And you'll find a lot of serial killers in prison who become Christians because, again, they want to manipulate people. And here we have Nick. He goes on a Christian site. Now, mind you, this guy's into hardcore violent porn, rape porn. Why would a man who's into rape porn go to a Christian dating site? Why wouldn't he go to Tinder? Why not go get a person who's just into that crap? Just go find yourself a woman who wants that same thing. She wants to be beat up. She wants you to handcuff her and put a ball gag in her mouth and be rough with her. Why don't you go to that site? No, you went to a Christian dating site. That's called psychopathy. That's called manipulation. He goes to this site and he finds Gypsy. Gypsy has never had sex, as far as I know, at that point in her life. There was one instance where she supposedly ran away and stayed overnight with this guy. I don't know. Maybe she did have sex one time. I can't get into that. Basically, she's either a virgin or very close to it. The Gypsy has never had a normal dating life. She's never had a boyfriend. She's never known what it's like to be cuddled, to be kissed, to be loved on. Here comes creepy dude. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know why you think this guy's not creepy as hell. This guy goes to a Christian dating site and he finds a girl who has never left home, even though she's actually she's an adult, never left home, never dated, never had a boyfriend, is supposedly a virgin. What man who's into rape and BDSM, what guy who's into that would want to connect with an innocent, completely emotionally disturbed, probably, girl? Who does that? I'll tell you who does that. A psychopath does that. That's a psychopath. because he knows he can control somebody who is that naive and that desperate. And so he comes on and he's a sweet talker. Now, some of you have said, oh my, when I saw this video with him being interviewed, I'll get to the video. Oh, he was so sweet. He's so honest. He's so open. No, he is manipulating even here. Y'all just don't get it. This guy knows how to sweet talk because he knows what he wants. So he sweet talks Gypsy. Gypsy can be sweet talked with pretty much anything because she is a desperate little girl at that point in time. She isn't dope, but she's still a desperate little girl, is really a teenager. So he starts in with her. And he's into violent sex. This is a girl who's never supposedly had sex. Why wouldn't he say, I want to hug you, I want to cuddle you, I want to kiss you, whatever? Okay, let me read you a few things that he said before he hooked up with Gypsy. Or maybe afterwards, but it actually is after, but he's talking on a line. He says this. He's talking to somebody whose name, I think it was, I'm not sure if it's Laura, but anyway, somebody he dated before, clearly dated in some fashion. I don't know if it was online dating or in-person dating, but it's creepy as hell. He says to her, yeah, like I said, I'm different. And actually, you didn't see a side of me that the woman I am with now knows about. So now he's saying that you were with me prior to being with Gypsy. You didn't see the side of me that she sees, which is even darker than when I was with you. And it still didn't scare her off. Well, that's because she's, quite frankly, an idiot. Okay, I say that in the nicest way. She's an idiot because she doesn't know any better. Naivety makes you an idiot. She's so desperate. She's got a guy who's sweet talking her, and she's like, oh my God, I'm going to have a boyfriend. Okay, so he wants to tie me to a bed. Hey, maybe that's normal. She doesn't know. And she said it didn't scare her off. It's called true love. No, it's not called true love. It's called true psychopathy. Oh my God. Oh, it says Laura that he's talking to. Then Laura says, I have that now. True love, because Laura has issues as well. You have no idea what I've been through with my husband, and it was a lot worse than what I went through with you. What stuff did you go through with him? Did he love you? Did he cuddle you? Did he make you happy? Was he worried about your pleasure? Or was he being cruel and vicious and rapey-like? Because you went through crap with him that was very unpleasant, apparently. And now she says, now she's going worse with her husband, and I'm still here by his side. Okay, Laura, you got issues. You are allowing somebody to abuse you, and you think it's cool because it's true love. He thinks if he abuses Gypsy, it's true love. No, that's true psychopathy. All right, let's see what else he says. He says, I'm the one I am with. We're defying the laws of nature to stay together. It is as bad as it can be. Seriously, if you love the girl, why would you want anything to be bad for her? So, by the way, they keep saying this whole thing about him being intellectually what's the word again? Just have a disability and on the spectrum. When I hear him here, as sweet as he's talking, he's perfectly rational. He has reasonably good, he's tired, but he's got reasonably good vocabulary. I'm going to link this. This is a later interview with him. His vocabulary is excellent. His ability to discuss things is excellent. This guy is not intellectually disabled at all. He may be a little, not the brightest, whatever, but still, you see him here, he's not as nice as he was here because he doesn't have to be, because he's not talking to the detective and trying to snow the detective. But anyway, let's go on. He says, oh, I won't tell you what I have to do to stay with her, but I'll do it if it means keeping her. All right. Is he madly in love with her, or does he finally realize he's got a girl who he thinks will allow him to abuse the living heck out of her sexually, that he's going to get to do rapey things with her that he's always desired? And maybe he got a little bit with the last girl, Laura, but not enough. But now he's got this girl who's totally into him, and he is willing. He's obsessed, not in love. He's obsessed with controlling her so he can have the sex he wants to have. That's what I believe. So he'll do anything, which, by the way, he presents him. He has said in his different, says he has multiple personalities. And one of the personalities is really into murder and rape. He's into that. Now, who says they're into murder, even in another personality? I could have 5 personalities on some kind of, you know, role-playing site. Murder is not one of them. You know, raping and murdering people is not one of them. If you got that as one of your personalities, you're a sick son of a bitch. And that's him. All right, so he's going to stay with her no matter what. He's going to keep her. And he says, if I have to kill to keep her, oh well, I'll do it. He's not telling Laura that he's going to kill to keep her, but that's what he's willing to do. But again, I think he's very happy to do it anyway. And I'm going to get into that. So actually, it goes on here. Let's see, what else did he say with Laura? He says, well, we're in a whole different dilemma. But once I do what I must do, I will have to disappear from a place on earth, possibly for the rest of my life, and she'll have to come with me and leave all her past behind. She'll have to come with me. He wants control over her. If I kill for you, you're going to come with me. That's not love. That's psychopathy. That's like being a stalker, dude. All right. He's finally found a girl who's naive enough, who has been he knows she's been in prison for 20 years with her mother and been manipulated. He's like, hot dang, I found the girl. Because finally, I'm an incel who sits on my computer in my mother's house and doesn't get anywhere. I finally found a girl online who will be with me and do whatever I want. And it gets creepier and creepier. So I don't understand why you all think this guy is a likable human being. But anyway, let's go on. He talks more to Laura, and then he says at the end, he says, I can't say any more about what I'm going to do with Gypsy, but he says to her, but I'll let you know, I hope you stay safe, even if you have to do things that are BDSM related. Oh, you think it's okay for the last girl you supposedly had some BDSM things with, you want her to stay with her husband, even if she's unhappy doing what he wants her to do that is BDSM related that she doesn't want. That's not love. That's abuse. That's 100% abuse. He's telling her, well, just don't get killed by the dude, even if you have to do things that are unpleasant. 50 Shades of Grey. Let's go off and let a guy torture the living heck out of you because you still love him. That is sick. I'll have to link below my 50 Shades of Grey thing I did. I did a blog on that because that guy is a sick sexual sadist. And I don't know why women think he's a hot thing outside of the fact he's rich and has a helicopter or a plane or whatever. Anyway, all right. That's this guy. He goes on a Christian website, looks for a naive girl, finds her, wants to not make love to her. He doesn't think of making love to her. He thinks of torturing her. This is the guy. All you Asperger people, you think that's what Asperger's about? You think that Asperger people like to torture women? That if you get guys, if you're an Asperger guy, you get a girl, that it's okay that you torture her? Do you think that's a cool thing? And that you're perfectly willing to kill, brutally murder somebody because you're Asperger's? I don't know why you want to put this guy in your group. This guy's a psychopath. He might have Asperger-y stuff, but he's a psychopath. Don't include him in your. You're trying to get people to understand Asperger's and autism. You want this guy to be the face of autism? Are you kidding me? Anyway, let me go on to this. So now he's caught. Gypsy's caught. Gypsy has already been interviewed. Now this detective is interviewing Nick. She does a fabulous job, so stop ragging on her. Oh, she took advantage of this poor guy who was on the spectrum. No, she was very nice. She talked sweetly to him, and he played the game. She was playing a game, but he was playing a game too. Don't give him so much of a break. So let's look at what she found out about this guy who never lies. His mother says, oh, he always tells the truth. Mother is a stupid idiot. Sorry, I don't have any respect for his mother. Sorry. I don't know what you and your dad did to this guy, but you suck. And you suck. That's all I can say. I don't have any sympathy. Maybe they're all, okay, never mind. Anyway, he's there now. Let's look at some of the things. So interesting enough, when he starts telling the story about what happened, he says now mind you, He is totally cognizant about how he left his home, how he took the Greyhound bus, what hotel he stayed at. He can detail everything about his entire trip. He's not an idiot. He's in there, and now he says he went to get Gypsy, and they packed up her stuff because her mother was going to throw her out. And this was a flaming lie. So he starts out by being a liar. He's not going to admit he killed Dee Dee. So he says, "Oh, she was just going to come home with me." Now, Gypsy, mind you, she had the idea that she could get pregnant by Nick, that maybe her mother would accept it because she'd have a grandkid and his mother would accept, and she could go on with her life. And apparently that was not what happened. But anyway, he says he's just coming down to pick her up, pack up her clothes because her mother's going to throw her out and take her away. At some point, she goes, "You're lying." Gypsy has told us the entire truth. So if you're a gentleman, if you really love Gypsy, you're going to tell me the truth. And this is where he's caught. Now, understand how psychopaths work. They will lie like dogs until they know that you know better. Then they will start changing the story because now they have to get the best they can get. So now what he does is he knows he's screwed. He did cut his finger at the scene. His blood is everywhere. I mean, he did a bad job of it. So he got cut and his DNA is there. So, and Gypsy has now said he killed her mother. So now he's screwed in that sense. So now he has two choices. One, to deny it happened, which is not going to work. He knows it. And this is what psychopaths will finally, I just wanted to be honest. No, they didn't. They already knew they were caught. Secondly, she said to him, which I thought was interesting, if you love Gypsy, you'll tell the truth. You will stand up for her. You'll be there for her. Now, if you were truly and madly in love with Gypsy, what he would have said was, Gypsy said she couldn't get away from her mother, and I came up with the idea of killing her. Now, if Gypsy said that she came up with that idea and I just did it for her, she's just trying to save my life. I was the one who was willing to do it. She never asked me to do it. I killed her mother, hoping that would free us. He could have said that and saved Gypsy from a life in prison. He was not willing to do that. He threw Gypsy right under the bus and said, "Yeah, she told me. She did ask me to do it. Absolutely, she asked me to do it." Because he knows now he's trying to save his ass. He knows that Gypsy has told the truth, and he is the guy who stabbed up Dee Dee, killed Dee Dee, murdered Dee Dee in cold blood. And now he knows he's going down. So now he's trying to shift the blame. Now, Gypsy has accepted the blame. She has said, I did ask him to do it, but he could have denied it, but he didn't. He's like, "Okay, yeah, that's absolutely true." Because he's hoping that if he plays the folie à deux card, folie à deux card. Now, let me explain what folie à deux is. Now, there's an original term of folie à deux, which is like a psychotic person sucks another person into their psychotic thinking. That was way back in the 1800s or whatever. But the term now, folie à deux, basically means that one person has enough power, like a spell almost, to put a spell on the other person to get them to commit a horrible crime on their behalf. So in other words, a Gypsy manipulated and put a spell on Nick, and therefore, because he was so in love with her, he did what she wanted. So he is basically the victim, and Gypsy would be the bad person. This is the concept of folie à deux, although I find it most of the time incorrect. I usually find that folie à deux, the person who is suffering the problem, actually is truly suffering of the problem, and they are living in a situation which they don't know how to get out of. So they find a psychopath who is willing to kill because it thrills them. And because giving that power to the psychopath, also, they like power. So if they can kill the person, they think they're going to get you, they're going to be able to control you, and they move on. And you'll find most of the time in a folie à deux situation, the person who does the killing has a lot of other psychopathic tendencies, that they will go on to other kind of crimes and all kinds of things. He already had psychopathic tendencies. He already was into the concept of rape and murder. He was already sitting in McDonald's masturbating to some kind of probably BDSM porn, if not complete rape porn. He already has got a problem. And the person when you have folie à deux, you have Gypsy coming in, she's got an issue. She runs into this guy, and he's like more than willing to jump in and manipulate her because he's like, it looks the opposite. It looks like she's manipulating him. And And there's some of that there too. But he's willing to jump in because he says, here is somebody I can control. And I get to do the things I want to do. So I've seen that more in Folia than the reverse. I think he was into murder and rape, and he wanted to have a girlfriend he could control and have violent sex with. And he ran into Gypsy, and Gypsy wasn't a horrible situation. So he was more than happy to jump in and kill her mother. But he also was willing to throw her under the bus. He wasn't willing to be a total gentleman at all. So now he's confessed, yes, I did this, but only because Gypsy told me to. Now let's look at some other things he says. Now he's presenting himself. He's like really sweet in this thing. He's like really sounds open. He says honestly over and over again, which is usually a sign of lying. Honestly, 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 honestly. No, that's a technique which basically says I'm trying to convince you I'm honest when I'm actually not. So he's going on about how, okay, I just love this girl so much. All right, then some interesting things come out in this interview, which are creepy as heck. Let's see. The detective says after he arrives at Gypsy's house, and she goes into the bathroom, he says, she's lock herself in the bathroom, and when I'm finished killing off your mom, I'll knock 3 times and scratch on the door twice so that it's over. But then it says this. All right. He apparently, while she's in the bathroom, while he's killing her mom, he wants her to shave her legs and shave her pubic area. Because, by the way, the shaving of the pubic area, which is very popular today, mind you, is also 100% the thing in porn films. Once upon a time in porn, women had pubic hair. But then there came this thing where I can't say it now. Making women look like little girls. Infantilize. Okay. Sometimes when you do a live show, you just lose control of the ability to speak English. Anyway, he wanted her to shave like all the porn videos. All right. So she looks younger. That's what the porn video is about. Now, again, it has become a cultural thing, and people like to, a lot of women do this anyway. And I find it kind of interesting that things have changed since I was in the 70s. That didn't happen. That actually pubic hair was a cool thing and very sexy. And now it's an uncool thing and not sexy. But he definitely wanted to make sure she shaved her legs and her pubic area. Why am I killing your mother? Well, I'm killing your mother. You know why? Because he finally was with her. He'd never been with her before. He wanted her to be appropriate for the kind of sex he wanted to have with her and his vision of how girls should look when they have sex, like in the porn films that he's been viewing. So, and he said, and here's what's interesting. So the detective says, did you tell her that you wanted her to go in there and shave her legs and her vagina? Did you tell her to do this? And he says, I think there was a combination of both of us. Okay. I mean, I wanted her to do that. All right. I'll be honest. See, here's his honesty again. I'll be honest. I did want that. Okay. But I think she wanted to do it. Also because she wanted to make sure that she pleased me. That's control. That's manipulation. She wasn't planning to do this. You told her to do this to please you while you're killing her mother. You're a sick son of a... That's a sick thing to do. You tell your girlfriend, okay, I've just met you finally, but go in there and clean yourself up because I don't want to have sex with you if you look the other way. By the way, while I kill your mother, when I come back, you better be shaven. She wanted it. No, she didn't. He wanted it. And he says, oh, she wanted it because it would please me. That's called domination. That's sick. This is your brand new girlfriend. You're so young. I mean, some people get into this stuff when they're the 40s or something. They get bored with regular sex. You haven't even had normal sex yet. And it's already a problem for you. Okay. So then the detective asks this. What kind of sex do you like to have? And people got real upset. Why is she getting into his sex life? Because it's important. It tells you about this guy. What kind of sex do you like to have? Is it like where it's hugging and kissing? Would you think a brand new girlfriend, you've been waiting to be her, you're madly in love with her? Don't you want to cuddle her? Don't you want to just kiss and kiss and kiss for hours? Don't you want to stroke her hair? Don't you want to make love to her? Have her be pleasured by you? Apparently not. What he says is, well, it's a little bit rough. where you're kind of like violent. And she's like, okay. And so he says, he likes biting her. Doesn't like to punch her. Punching's out, but biting's okay. Why? Do you know why he wants to bite her? He says, because it marks his territory. Marks his territory. And now we're not talking about, a little hickey here. We're talking about biting on her body to leave a permanent mark, to mark his territory. And then he says, as a psychopath would, oh, it's because she wanted me to mark my territory on her. The girl has never been in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. This is normal? No, what he spent on the time he was online with her, playing all these these fantasy games, sex games, whatever, he was grooming her. You remember the word grooming? He was grooming her to be his slave, grooming her to be the type of girl who would accept his violent natures. And then when the detective asked him, what kind of violent things do you do? He didn't punch her, but she had bruises on her. So his thing was to grab her and then sexually have sex with her in such a way that it was extremely violent, not pleasurable. He doesn't talk about pleasuring her in any way, shape, or form. He talks about her giving him oral sex, her giving him anal sex, her allowing him just simply to plow into her. Gypsy doesn't know any better at this point. She's just, she's a young teenage girl, essentially, who's online hearing stuff from a guy who's grooming her, and she's falling for this crap. And he's a sick son of a gun. So he's like, wants her to believe this is some kind of cool thing to pleasure your man this way. He never says once that she had a good time. He didn't care that she had a good time. And interestingly enough, apparently after her mother was murdered, because remember, he said he did. Oh, did he say? Yes, he wanted to rape mommy. It does say that, or is it here? Let's find the rape thing about mom. He said he was interested in raping her mother, and she kind of was against it. What kind of guy wants to rape his girlfriend's mother? And then the detective asked him about, rape her after she's dead. It's like, what kind of thing is that? And he goes, well, it's necrophilia. And she says, what's necrophilia? Now, she knew what necrophilia was. People are like, she's so stupid. The detective doesn't know what necrophilia is. She knew. She wanted to see what he was going to say. And you know what he said? Well, he explained to her what necrophilia was. And she's like, well, how do you know that? And he goes, because I search. That's something that comes up on the internet a lot. People are super interested in. No, people are not interested in necrophilia. If you're looking up necrophilia, you're a creepo. Because you're interested in necrophilia. That is not a popular term on the internet. That is garbage. So anyway, he wanted to rape her mom. That was kind of off limits to Gypsy at that point. But who even suggests that? Because he's into rape. That's why he suggests that. So then after he stabs her mother 17 times, that's a lot of times, by the way, 17 times. And he's like massively killing her and cutting her throat. He's like, and in his interview, he's got like no concern about the fact. Oh, he says later, oh, I felt a little guilty. He felt guilty. Yeah, no, he doesn't. He doesn't seem to have any real concern that he killed Dee Dee. Now, mind you, one of the problems with this whole case is that nobody likes Dee Dee. And she deserve to be killed? I don't feel a whole lot of sadness for her either, because I think she's a psychopath that tortured a kid for 20 years. I don't feel that bad either. But the point is not that. The point is, he hardly knew what Dee Dee was like. He only heard a little bit of what Gypsy said. And let's say Gypsy said, kill my 6-year-old daughter. And he stabbed the 6-year-old daughter 17 times. Would that make a difference to you? I would think so. You probably go, what a horrible psychopath. But because it was Dee Dee and nobody really liked Dee Dee, it's okay if he stabs her 17 times. Now, mind you, here's the difference. One is that we don't really like the victim and we don't care that she got killed. The other thing is, who does that? I don't care if you like a person and don't like a person. To go in there cold-bloodedly and stab a woman 17 times means you like to murder. You like it. And he has always said he was interested in it. He liked the concept of murdering. That's a sick SOB. So don't tell me this is a nice guy who just did it for love. He didn't. He never loved Gypsy. He wanted to control Gypsy. He was obsessed with Gypsy because Gypsy would give him, because she didn't know any better, the kind of sex he was hoping for. After he stabbed up Dee Dee, brutally murdered her with 17 stabs, and his girlfriend had finished shaving herself, and then apparently he wanted her to clean up the blood because he wanted to clean up her blood in his blood in the nude so he could watch her body cleaning up. And then he wanted to have sex with her, and they did have sex. He couldn't get off. The guy couldn't ejaculate. He's never really ejaculated under most circumstances because it's not rough enough, it's not mean enough, it's not violent enough for him to get excited about. He never wanted to make love to most guys. I mean, finally you get your girlfriend, you're gonna make love to her, you're gonna ejaculate. It's gonna be so thrilling. This guy couldn't do it because his thrill is in rape and murder. And he might have gotten off on Dee Dee. If he could have raped her, he would have been, maybe that would have worked. But unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to do that for whatever reasons. And then his girlfriend wasn't as exciting as all that. At that moment in time, he didn't get to commit enough violence against her to make it good enough for him. All right. That's how sick this dude is. Now, the other thing that happens is he claims, now mind you, during the time he's talking to Gypsy, he's claiming he has multiple personalities, which is no proof of. But they're just role playing. Role playing is not multiple personalities. Maybe you're wishful thinking that you could be the evil guy and the good guy and the whatever, but it's not truly multiple personality. He claims during this interview that suddenly he realized he had two sides of him. No, he had two sides, not during just this moment, but he had two sides. One was the good side, one was the evil side. And when he got there, the good side was there, and then the evil side just took over, and that was what killed Dee Dee. So the detective, who's great, says, "Oh, did you have a problem with the good and bad side prior to this?" And he couldn't come up with a good answer. He's like, "No, not really." Then she says, "What about after this? Has the evil guy keep repeating himself?" "Oh, not really." "Oh, so the evil side of you only appeared during this one murder you committed, just that one time." That is not the way things work. You're lying like a dog. There is no good and evil side to you that you couldn't control. You're lying right here. He's a liar. He's a liar. Folks, get it straight. Just because he talks sweet doesn't mean he's not a manipulative liar. He is. He just comes across really well. But I would say, okay, so then when you see this later on, so anyway, he goes away and he shows up in this interview, and you see in this interview, which I'm linking below, he doesn't come across quite as sweet as this. Comes across even more intelligent and more stronger than he does here. This guy does not have a lack of control of himself. He is doing what he likes to do. I would say this is what I think would have happened had he not been caught. He would have gone away with Gypsy, and he would have become her dungeon master. She would have become his slave. Now, depending on his big problem is he didn't have any freaking money. It's pretty pitiful. So he's living at his mother's house at 26. Okay, I'm not saying it's wrong to live in your mother's house when you're 26. You might have reasons for that. I think he's just a lazy son of a bitch who wants to be on the internet all the time. But there are other people there for true physical reasons, or they're in between jobs or whatever. I don't have a problem with kids living at home with their parents as long as they're kind to their parents and are working on moving on. But so let's say he gets there with Gypsy. Where's he planning to move to with no money? Okay, he's planning to move back to his parents' mother's house. So now he's there. Now he doesn't know how to make love to a girl in a way that shows kindness and that I care about you. All he wants to do is torture. At some point, she's going to get tired of being tortured probably, and she's going to either run away from him or he's going to get pissed off and he's going to kill her. Sometimes in these situations, the girl ends up getting strangled to death, or she runs away and he catches up with her and says, if I can't have you, nobody will, and he'll kill her. Some of these incel types, even though they seem incredibly sweet and nice, and they're good at fooling you, will show up one day at somebody's house and torture and murder another woman. They will kidnap people. They will do the stuff. And then you'll find out 20 years later that they killed 8 young girls. or teenagers. And you go, I had no idea. He was always so sweet and so kind. I thought he just had a few. No, he's got you fooled. And I think he's got a lot of people fooled. I don't buy his shtick. I don't. Because he was already into violent ideation. Because before actual behavior, actual acts happen, you have to have the ideation. Most serial killers have the ideation of murder, rape and murder prior to they don't just wake up one day and say, I love helping people. I love dogs. And today I woke up and I want to rape and murder people. It doesn't work that way. They are early on, even if they can have some level of autism or Asperger's, but they can also have psychopathy along with it. So yeah, you want to say he's got some kind of he's not as whatever he's got. Yeah, well, okay, fine, go there. But he's also a psychopath. It doesn't keep you from being a psychopath. Don't say that his behaviors are just normal for Asperger's and autism. For God's sakes, folks, none of you out there who are giving this guy the time of day are murderers and rapists. At least I hope you're not. And now you're saying, oh, I think he's so nice. He's so sweet. Why did you let him out of prison? Okay, let him out of prison. Come live at your house with your daughter. I think you might have a different point of view. He is danger to the community. We haven't even seen all of what was presented in all of his life. I'm going to say there's a lot more there that we do not even know. But I think the jury came down right on this. He brutally murdered a woman who he did not even know. And he enjoyed 17 stabs is a lot. And it means that you enjoy the stabbing part. And if he hadn't been caught, I think he would have gone on to some other version of psychopathy, violent psychopathy, whether it be serial rape, whether it be serial murder, whether it be killing off Gypsy, whatever. I don't know. But I don't trust this guy. And I didn't buy this interview as, oh, this is the sweetest guy in the world. I didn't buy this because I'm a profiler and I've seen this crap before. I think this guy's where he needs to be. People say, oh, why didn't he go to some kind of psychiatric institution instead? Like, I personally believe Gypsy should have gone to a psychiatric institute. Why? Because she spent two decades being tortured. And she thought this was her only way out. Now, could she still be a psychopath or a narcissist? I can't say that. I'm not able to analyze her personally, but I think she should have gone to a psychiatric institute and had psychiatric help, because I think she could maybe. She has to deal with a 2 decades worth of torture. And I think she has that right to get that kind of help. This piece of crap, sorry, you belong in prison where you are, and no one should let you out ever again. That's my thinking on that. So anyway, I think I'll stop there. I said a lot. Again, you may disagree with me, and that's okay. But be polite, be anything rude coming down in the comments, I just block everybody, because it's my house, and I am a criminal profiler. It's my profession, and I'm giving a professional opinion. Just be polite, just be respectful. But I'd like to hear from autistic people who are on the autism spectrum. Are you rapists and murderers? Do you think raping and murdering is something autistic people do? Because, so you have a little difficulty with social skills, so raping and murdering is also on the spectrum? I mean, I don't want to say that. The same way when people are intellectually, what is it again? I worked with my days, people were called mentally retarded. I worked with organizations that actually use the word retarded citizens. They used to use that word. So I have trouble with the new one. But I've never thought that people who had intellectual disabilities had to be psychopaths too. I mean, that was normal for them. Not that they were psychopaths. That people with intellectual disabilities couldn't help themselves, so they just raped and murdered because they didn't know better. No. There were a couple of people with intellectual disabilities, I would say, were psychopaths as well. But the majority of people with intellectual disabilities, in no way would do such things. They even know, even if their mental status is 10, 12 years old, even 10 and 12-year-olds know that it's not okay to rape and murder. They know that. There's a morality, even with people who have certain disabilities intellectually, or if they have some social issues, which on the autism spectrum, they also know that it's not okay to rape and murder people. That has nothing to do with it. And if you're going to put rape and murder on the spectrum with you, why would you do that? Why don't you just say, in spite of the fact this guy may have some Asperger's symptoms or Asperger's behaviors, I'm going to say the dude's a psychopath and has nothing to do with the rest of us on the spectrum. I'm with you. Don't put him on this. Don't say that murder is normal for people on the spectrum. That's just appalling. Anyway, I'm going to stop here. I'm just going to rattle on because it just drives me crazy. Anyway, this, I say, was not a video done to get clicks and to get subscribers and to make friends, because this is not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I always do things for educational purposes and because I like to be truthful and honest, even if it doesn't benefit me. But if you're new to the channel and you still like me, subscribe, because this is an educational channel and the support for the educational channel makes a difference. And I do appreciate it. Do click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications, check my playlist for all the other, not this case, cases that I have analyzed. Check, see what you like down there. And there's a little $sign, and I don't know if this is this. I don't know if YouTube is going to demonetize this, but they might. So support the channel with the super thanks. Keep it going. If you don't like what I had to say, and you don't like me, please find somebody on YouTube you do like. And be polite. That's all I ask. Be polite. Anyway, thank you for being here. This was not an easy video for me to do, but I had to say something about it because people kept saying, well, but Pat. Anyway, bye-bye.